The NBA draft is upon us. The Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that was identified as a major disappointment in the last few seasons. Karl-Anthony Towns has been labeled soft and possibly the worst defender in the NBA. D'Angelo Russell was brought in with his own prior baggage, and the Timberwolves supporting cast has yet to prove itself. With the Timberwolves having the number 1 pick in this year's draft, Minnesota has a clear-cut choice to make that will impact their franchise for the rest of the decade. Lamelo Ball or Anthony Edwards. This will be the first part of a 2-part series on who the Timberwolves should take with that number 1 pick. And for part 1, we're making the case for Lamelo Ball. There are 2 main schools of thought regarding what the Timberwolves will do with the first pick: best talent or best fit. Lamelo Ball is the number 1 talent in this draft. Wiseman and Anthony Edwards are close, but the upside of Lamelo Ball, along with his physical and mental attributes, puts him above the rest. If the Timberwolves select Melo with the first pick, it's an obvious strategy of simply getting as many good players as possible and figuring out the rest later. The talent over fit strategy really became mainstream with Philadelphia, when they seemed to draft 5 centers in the top 5 over 3 years. And while the Timberwolves aren't really close to that level of overstacking one position, having D'Angelo Russell, Lamelo Ball, Jarrett Culver, and Malik Beasley may cause some minutes issues and some ball movement issues for the Timberwolves. Let's actually get to make the case for Lamelo Ball now, shall we? If Lamelo actually reaches anywhere close to his potential, any criticism of overstacking the guard position is completely irrelevant. Lamelo has an extremely matured game on the offensive end. We all know how great a passer and facilitator he is, but I really think his defensive potential is something that's really overlooked. Having an extremely athletic 6'8" point guard, who also happens to have a shockingly long wingspan, lends itself to being a fantastic defender simply based upon those measurements. If he gets stronger, Lamelo could be a lockdown defender on the perimeter, which would be invaluable on a notoriously bad defense like Minnesota. To me, his biggest potential on the defensive end is actually because of his fantastic basketball IQ and mental skill. 99% of talk about a player's basketball IQ is referencing their offensive impact, but Melo having the defensive instincts to pick up early steals in transition, picking off transition outlet passes, and having the sense to perfectly time weak side blocks is something that should make the Timberwolves GM salivate. As of the current day, it's obvious that Melo can fall asleep on defense at an unreasonable rate. His defensive discipline has actually sort of shown glimpses to Zion, and that they gamble too much on the defensive end. But the real reason Lamelo is so tantalizing as a prospect is his playmaking and finishing. His shooting percentages in Australia weren't very good, but hopefully being placed with 2 other all-star caliber players will open up some shots for him. Lamelo's passing is second to none. The baseball pass we saw Lonzo popularize is maybe even as good as Lamelo's, plus being a full 2 inches taller than Lonzo will only make him more dangerous. Lamelo's vision is also something to behold. He can make pinpoint passes to diving bigs, and really good passes to open 3-point shooters coming off the dribble. He can really do it all on that end. The passing of Lamelo is his most obvious skill, but out of his entire game, I really think his finishing ability may be his best. Ever since we saw highlights of Lamelo as a freshman in high school, I've always noticed his touch around the rim. Double clutch layups, finishing on the fast break, finishing in traffic. He's consistently been making difficult shots in the lane against great competition for over 5 years at this point. Lamelo's floaters and runners are unguardable with his height and may be more polished than most players already in the NBA, especially when he has a wingspan that rivals some centers. And even with all this playmaking and finishing, the fact that Lamelo knows what to use and when to use it only serves as a multiplier to his effectiveness. He always knows what move to make for every situation. The main question with Lamelo offensively is obviously his shooting. We saw a very similar story arc with Lonzo, transitioning from UCLA to the NBA, an unorthodox shot that was effective for lower levels, but will need to change going against the athleticism and size of the modern NBA player. The good news is that Lamelo will already have a great offensive supporting cast, and that we've already seen Lonzo start to show improvements in his shooting across the board, that he was completely willing to change his shot in order to adjust to the NBA. If that gives us any comfort for Lamelo, that means only good things. Now let's take a look at the Timberwolves with Lamelo on the roster. The new starting lineup is most likely going to be D'Angelo Russell, Lamelo, either Josh Okogie or Jarrett Culver, Juan Hernangomez, and Karl Towns. Hernangomez and Towns both shot over 40% from 3 last season, and D'Lo was not bad at 35%. So Melo immediately has 2 deadly pick-and-pop bigs, and a fantastic catch-and-shoot guard in D'Angelo Russell to the side of him. Obviously, the defense for this lineup is going to be a massive sinkhole. The Timberwolves, without Lamelo last year, had the 19th ranked defense in the league, and adding another defensive liability could be pretty disastrous for the Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves should pick Lamelo Ball if they're simply going after talent and upside. He sells tickets, he provides a revival and a refresh for the entire Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. If Minnesota wants to go all in on the offensive end and hope that Lamelo is able to develop into the all-NBA caliber player that everyone believes he will be, the Timberwolves may have to sacrifice defense in order to select a player that could have the highest ceiling of any player in this year's draft. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more draft coverage, and comment down below if you think Lamelo should be drafted number 1. I'll see you back tomorrow for part 2 on Anthony Edwards.